When I married my late husband's best friend 18 months after losing Tom, the only reason I still have my home, my savings, and my sanity is because I made one critical decision. I never told James about the insurance money. I know how that sounds. I can already hear what some of you are thinking. But before you judge me, let me tell you what happened. Because that decision, that secret I kept, it didn't just save my bank account. It saved my life. My name is Linda Morrison. I'm 62 years old, and I spent 34 years as a registered nurse in Portland, Oregon. I worked night shifts, double shifts, holiday shifts. I held the hands of dying patients and celebrated with families welcoming new babies. It was hard work, the kind that leaves your feet aching and your heart full, and I loved every minute of it. Tom and I met when I was 26. He was a high school English teacher with terrible handwriting and the kindest eyes I'd ever seen. We had a simple life. A modest 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood, 2 kids, both grown now, with families of their own. Sunday dinners that turned into Monday morning debates about politics. A marriage that wasn't perfect, but it was ours, and it was real. Tom was careful with money. Maybe too careful. He always said we needed to protect ourselves, to plan for the worst even when we hoped for the best. So when he turned 55, he bought a substantial life insurance policy, $1.2 million. I thought it was excessive. We had a pension, we had savings, we had health insurance. But Tom insisted. "Linda," he said, holding my hand across our kitchen table, "if something happens to me, I need to know you'll be okay, that you won't have to worry, that you can live the life you deserve." I told him he was being morbid, that we'd grow old together, watch our grandchildren graduate, maybe finally take that trip to Italy we'd been talking about for 20 years. 3 months later, Tom collapsed in his classroom while discussing Shakespeare with his junior year students. Massive heart attack. He was gone before the ambulance even arrived. He was 56 years old. The grief was crushing. You know that phrase about a broken heart? I never understood it until then. There were mornings I couldn't breathe. Days when I forgot he was gone and reached for him in bed, only to find cold sheets beside me. The house felt too big and too small all at once. Our kids, Michael and Sarah, they tried to help. But they had their own lives 3 hours away in Seattle. Their own families, their own jobs, their own problems. They called every day at first, then every few days, then maybe once a week. I didn't blame them. Life goes on, even when yours feels like it stopped. The insurance money came through about 6 weeks after the funeral. $1.2 million, minus taxes. It was more money than I'd ever seen in my life. More money than I knew what to do with. I met with a financial advisor, a woman recommended by our bank. She helped me invest most of it conservatively. Bonds, index funds, a diverse portfolio that would provide steady income along with my pension. I kept living in our house, kept my same routines. I still drove the same 10-year-old Honda Civic, still bought store-brand cereal, still clipped coupons even though I didn't need to anymore. Nobody knew about the insurance money except my kids and my lawyer, and that's how I wanted it. James Patterson had been Tom's colleague for almost 15 years. They taught in the same department, shared a love of classic literature, coached the debate team together. James had been at our house 100 times. Backyard barbecues, retirement parties, Christmas gatherings. His wife, Carol, had passed away from cancer about 8 years before Tom died. I remember bringing them casseroles, sitting with James while he cried, telling him it would get better even though I had no idea if that was true. After Tom died, James started checking on me. At first, it was just phone calls. "Hey Linda, just wanted to make sure you're doing okay." Then he started dropping by, bringing dinner, helping with things around the house that Tom used to handle, fixing the leaky faucet in the guest bathroom, trimming the overgrown bushes in the front yard. I appreciated it. I really did. It felt good to have someone who understood, someone who'd been through the same devastating loss. James knew what it was like to wake up and remember all over again that your person was gone. He got it in a way that my well-meaning friends and neighbors couldn't. 6 months after Tom's funeral, James asked me to dinner. A real dinner, he said, not just takeout on the couch. He wanted to take me to Andina, this beautiful Peruvian restaurant downtown that Tom and I had always meant to try but never got around to. I almost said no. It felt too soon, too strange, but I was so tired of being alone, so tired of eating frozen meals and watching television by myself and going to bed at 8 o'clock because there was nothing else to do. So I said yes. That dinner changed something between us. We talked for 3 hours. About Tom. Yes. But also about our childhoods, our dreams, the lives we'd lived. James told me about growing up in rural Montana, about his father who'd been a coal miner, about the scholarship that got him to college. He asked about my nursing career. Really asked. Wanted to know about the patients I'd lost and saved, the moments that defined me. When he drove me home, he walked me to the door. He didn't try to kiss me. He just said, "I'd really like to do this again, Linda. If you're open to it." I was open to it. We dated for 14 months. Slow and careful at first, then with more confidence. James was attentive and thoughtful. He remembered that I liked daisies, not roses, that I preferred white wine to red. That Tuesday nights were my phone calls with Sarah, and he never scheduled anything that would interfere. He integrated seamlessly into my life, and I into his. He lived in a small apartment across town. Not a bad place, just modest. A teacher's salary doesn't go far, he explained, especially after Carol's medical bills. I understood that. Medical debt can destroy a family. I'd seen it happen to patients and their loved ones more times than I could count. James never asked about my finances, never questioned how I was managing on a nurse's pension. I lived simply enough that it seemed plausible, I suppose. The old car, the same house, the practical wardrobe. Nothing about my lifestyle suggested I had any significant money. And I never volunteered the information about the insurance money. It wasn't that I didn't trust James, it was just private. My financial advisor had stressed the importance of being discreet about sudden wealth. "You'd be surprised," she'd said, "how many people come out of the woodwork when they find out you have money." Besides, I liked that James wanted me for me, not for what I could provide. Just me. The 60-year-old former nurse with silver hair and laugh lines and a tendency to fall asleep during movies. After a year together, James proposed. Nothing fancy. We were at our favorite coffee shop on a Sunday morning, sharing a blueberry scone, when he reached across the table and took my hand. "Linda, I love you. I love the life we're building together. I know we're both older, that we've both loved and lost before, but I want to spend whatever time I have left with you. Will you marry me?" I said yes. How could I not? I was happy again. I laughed again. The house didn't feel empty anymore. James filled it with life and warmth and possibility. We set a date 4 months out. Nothing elaborate. A small ceremony at our neighborhood community center, just close friends and family. Sarah and Michael seemed pleased. They both said the same thing. "Dad would want you to be happy, Mom." James's daughter, Brooke, was another story. She was 36, worked in marketing in Los Angeles, and had a smile that never quite reached her eyes. She flew up for a weekend to meet me about 2 months before the wedding. Brooke was polite but cold. She asked a lot of questions about my house, my neighborhood, my plans for retirement. "So you're living on your pension?" she asked over dinner. "That must be tight." "I manage," I said carefully. "The housing market in Portland is crazy right now," she continued. "This neighborhood especially. I bet your house is worth a lot. I haven't had it appraised recently." She smiled, that empty smile. "Well, at least you'll have Dad to help with expenses now. 2 incomes are better than 1, right?" Something about the way she said it made my stomach tighten, but I pushed the feeling aside. She was just being practical, I told myself, looking out for her father. 2 weeks later, James brought up combining finances. We were at my house, sitting on the back porch, drinking iced tea in the late afternoon sun. "I've been thinking," he said, "after we're married, it would probably make sense to merge everything. Joint checking account, joint savings. It'll be simpler that way." "Let's talk about that after the wedding," I said. "There's so much to coordinate right now." He pressed a little. "I just want to make sure we're on the same page about money. I know it can be a sensitive topic, but I think it's important to be transparent with each other." "Of course," I agreed. "We'll definitely discuss it, soon." But every time he brought it up, I found a reason to postpone. Something didn't feel right. I couldn't articulate what it was. Just this nagging sensation in my gut, like I was forgetting something important. 3 weeks before the wedding, James mentioned selling my house. We were cleaning out the garage, sorting through Tom's old tools and camping equipment I'd been meaning to donate. "You know," James said casually, "we could sell this place after we're married. My apartment lease is month to month. We could get something new together, a fresh start." "I love this house," I said. "Tom and I raised our kids here. I understand the sentimental value. But think about it financially. You could downsize, free up capital. We could travel. Didn't you and Tom always want to go to Italy?" There it was again, that uncomfortable twist in my stomach. James had never been this focused on money before, never pushed this hard about practical matters. "Let's wait until after the wedding to make those kinds of decisions," I said firmly. He backed off, but I could see something shift in his expression, a tightness around his mouth, a flash of something in his eyes that might have been frustration. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, Tom's side of the bed still empty after 3 years. I kept hearing my financial advisor's voice. "You'd be surprised how many people come out of the woodwork when they find out you have money." The next morning, I called Sarah. "Honey, I need to ask you something. About James." "Is everything okay, Mom?" "I don't know. Maybe I'm being paranoid, but he's been really focused on my finances lately, wanting to merge everything, talking about selling the house. It just feels off." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Mom, did you and James sign a prenup?" My heart sank. I hadn't even thought about it. "No. Should we have? I think you need to talk to a lawyer. You have assets to protect." Dad made sure of that. After I hung up, I sat in the kitchen for an hour, my coffee going cold. Sarah was right. But how could I bring up a prenup now, 3 weeks before the wedding? James would be hurt. He'd think I didn't trust him. But what if I should trust that feeling in my gut? I called my lawyer, Patricia Chen. She'd handled Tom's estate and our wills. I trusted her completely. "Linda," she said after I explained the situation, "I'm going to be very direct with you. You need a prenuptial agreement. Not because James is definitely a bad person, but because you're vulnerable. You have significant assets. You're at an age where people assume you're emotionally vulnerable. These are exactly the circumstances where elder financial abuse happens." "James isn't like that," I protested. "He loved Tom. He'd been our friend for years. I'm sure he's a good man. But wouldn't a good man understand why you'd want to protect yourself, especially given how hard you and Tom worked for everything you have?" She was right. I knew she was right. That evening, I brought it up with James. We were at his apartment, and I'd rehearsed what I wanted to say a dozen times. "James, I need to talk to you about something. My lawyer suggested we sign a prenuptial agreement." His face went completely still. "A prenup? Linda, we've been together for over a year. We're getting married in 3 weeks. Why would we need a prenup?" "It's just to protect both of us. To make sure everything is clear." "To protect you, you mean?" His voice had an edge I'd never heard before. "What exactly are you protecting? Your pension? This house that you've been talking about selling anyway?" "It's not about not trusting you. It's about being smart. Being smart would be trusting your future husband. Being smart would be recognizing that we're building a life together, Linda. Together. That means what's yours is ours, and what's mine is ours. But that's exactly what a prenup clarifies." "I can't believe this." He stood up, pacing his small living room. "After everything we've been through, after I was there for you when Tom died, after I helped you through the worst time of your life, this is how you repay me? With legal documents and suspicion?" "James, please don't take it that way." "How else should I take it? You clearly don't see me as a partner. You see me as a threat." I left his apartment that night with a knot in my chest. He was right, wasn't he? I was being paranoid, untrusting. James had been nothing but good to me, and here I was, essentially accusing him of being some kind of gold digger. But I couldn't shake Patricia's words. "You're vulnerable. You have significant assets. This is exactly when elder financial abuse happens." The next day, I did something I wasn't proud of. I called an old friend from my nursing days, Karen, whose nephew worked as a private investigator. I told myself I just needed peace of mind, that I'd confirm James was exactly who he said he was. Then I'd apologize for doubting him. Mark, Karen's nephew, met me at a coffee shop 3 days later. He was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with kind eyes that reminded me of patients' families I'd comforted over the years. "Mrs. Morrison, I understand you want me to run a background check on your fiancé. Is that terrible? Am I a horrible person? You're being smart. And I'll tell you this. Most of my clients wish they'd hired me before the wedding, not after." I gave him James's full name, date of birth, and social security number. Information I had because we'd been filling out wedding paperwork together. Mark said it would take about a week. Those were the longest 7 days of my life. James and I had smoothed things over, or so I thought. He'd apologized for overreacting about the prenup, said he understood I was just being careful, but he still seemed distant. Still made little comments about the house, about our financial future. Brooke called me twice that week. "Just checking in on wedding plans," she said, but her questions always circled back to my assets. Did I have a financial advisor? What bank did I use? Had I thought about updating my will? "Why do you ask?" I said during the second call. "Oh, just making sure Dad's taken care of. You know how men are. They don't think about these practical things." After I hung up, I pulled out the notebook where I'd been keeping track of odd moments. I'd started it unconsciously, jotting down times when something felt wrong. Looking at it now, there were more entries than I'd realized. Week 1. James asking about my mortgage, whether it was paid off. Week 3. Brooke asking if I had life insurance, just curious. Week 6. James suggesting I add him to my bank account for emergencies. Week 8. Finding James in my home office, looking through my filing cabinet. He said he was looking for stamps. Week 10. Brooke asking who would inherit the house if something happened to me. Oh God. How had I not seen it? How had I let all these red flags pile up without putting them together? Mark called on day 7, right on schedule. "Mrs. Morrison, can we meet? I have information you need to see." We met at the same coffee shop. Mark brought a folder, thick with printouts. He slid it across the table, his expression serious. "I'm going to be direct. James Patterson is not who you think he is." My hands shook as I opened the folder. James wasn't just Tom's colleague. He was Tom's debtor. 8 years ago, Tom loaned James $50,000 to help pay for Carol's cancer treatment. There's documentation of this. Promissory notes, signed agreements. James was supposed to pay it back in installments. He made 3 payments, then stopped. Tom never mentioned that. "Your husband was a private man, but I found the paperwork when I accessed public records." Now here's where it gets worse. James has been involved in 3 similar situations over the past 15 years. After Carol died, he entered into relationships with 3 different women. All widows, all financially comfortable. All ended with him gaining access to their money, then disappearing when they tried to recover it. I couldn't breathe. That can't be right. James loved Tom. He was at our house all the time. James needed Tom. Tom was his cover, his way into your life. He established trust over years, waiting for the right opportunity, and when Tom died, he had it. A vulnerable widow who clearly had some resources. Mark paused. "Mrs. Morrison, did you tell James about your insurance money?" "No. Never." "Good. That probably saved you. But he knows you have something. The house alone is worth $600,000 in this market. And his daughter, Brooke, she's been arrested twice for financial fraud. Small-time stuff, but concerning." The coffee shop seemed to spin around me. "They're working together?" "I believe so. She's been involved in 2 of his previous schemes. They've been planning this, Mrs. Morrison. The long game, the friendship with your husband, the sudden attention after Tom died, the push to marry quickly. This is elder financial abuse, and it's coordinated." I thought I might throw up. What do I do? First, do not marry him. Second, I recommend you contact both the police and a lawyer. With your permission, I'd like to share this information with the authorities. What James has done, what he's planning, it's illegal. And given his history, you're not the only victim. That night, I didn't go home. I went to a hotel and called Patricia from the room. "Linda, listen to me very carefully," she said after I explained everything. "Do not confront James. Do not tell him what you know. Act normal. We need to document this properly." The next 3 weeks were the most excruciating of my life. I had to pretend everything was fine, had to smile at James, accept his kisses, discuss centerpieces and catering menus, all while knowing what he was planning, what he'd done to other women, how he'd exploited Tom's friendship and my grief. Patricia worked with the police. They wanted to catch James in the act, to build a stronger case. They advised me to go through with the wedding ceremony but not file the marriage license, to wear a wire to capture his plans on record. Michael and Sarah flew in. When I told them everything, Sarah cried. Michael wanted to confront James immediately, but Patricia convinced him to wait. "Your mother's safety is the priority," she said. "We do this right, or he walks free and finds another victim." The wedding day arrived. I got dressed in the simple cream dress I'd bought, my hands shaking so badly Sarah had to help with the zipper. Under my clothes, I wore a wire. Police were stationed outside the community center, ready to move. James looked handsome in his dark suit. Brooke stood beside him, that fake smile plastered on her face. I wondered how many times they'd done this, how many women they'd destroyed. We said our vows. James's voice was smooth, confident. "I promise to love you, cherish you, and build a life with you." The words made my skin crawl. After the ceremony, during the small reception, James pulled me aside. "Hey, can we talk for a minute? Somewhere private?" This was it. Patricia had predicted he'd make his move today. We stepped into a small office off the main hall. James closed the door. "Linda, I need to tell you something. I wasn't completely honest about my financial situation." "Oh?" "I have some debts. From Carol's illness, mostly, and some bad investments. I need about $60,000 to clear everything up." He took my hands. "I know we didn't sign a prenup, which means what's yours is mine now. I was thinking we could access your home equity line, pay off my debts, and start fresh." My voice was remarkably steady. "I don't have a home equity line." "Then we'll get one. Or you could liquidate some investments. You must have something, Linda. You've been living off more than just your pension. I'm not stupid." "What makes you think that?" His expression hardened. "Because Tom told me. Years ago, he told me about the life insurance policy. Said you'd be set for life if anything happened to him." There it was. The confession. "So this whole thing," I said slowly, "our entire relationship, it was about money?" "Don't be naive. At our age, everything's about money and security. I need to clear my debts. You have resources. We help each other. That's what marriage is." "What about the other women?" "Carol? The widows you scammed before me?" His face went pale. "What are you talking about?" "I know everything, James. The private investigator, the police, the recording device I'm wearing right now." For a moment, he just stared at me. Then he lunged for the door, but it opened before he reached it. 2 police officers stepped in. "James Patterson, you're under arrest for attempted fraud and elder financial abuse." James started screaming at me as they handcuffed him. Threats, accusations, calling me terrible names. Brooke was arrested in the parking lot, trying to flee. In her car, police found documents, forged papers to add James to my accounts, plans to contest Tom's will, claiming James was owed money from the estate. They'd been planning to take everything. The house, the insurance money they suspected existed, even Tom's death benefits and pension survivor payments. And once they'd stripped me dry, they would have disappeared, just like they'd done to 3 other women. The trial took 8 months. Mark's investigation had uncovered everything. The previous victims testified. One woman had lost her entire life savings, nearly $300,000. Another had been forced to sell her home. A third had attempted suicide after realizing she'd lost everything her husband had left her. James got 12 years. Brooke got 6. Tom's loan was recovered as part of the estate, with interest. The money James owed became part of my inheritance from Tom, a bitter irony. I didn't remarry. I don't think I will. My house is still mine. My savings are still intact. The insurance money Tom left me, the money he worked so hard to provide, it's still there, invested and growing, ensuring the security he wanted for me. I learned something through all of this. Protecting yourself isn't the same as being paranoid. Keeping your financial information private isn't lying, and trusting your gut when something feels wrong, even when you can't explain why, that's not weakness. That's wisdom. I still date occasionally. I have dinner with friends. I volunteer at the hospital where I used to work. I travel, took that trip to Italy I'd always dreamed about. I live a full life, a good life, but I live it on my terms, with my autonomy intact. And I tell my story to anyone who will listen, because there are James Pattersons everywhere, charming, patient predators who see vulnerability as opportunity. They're not always men, they're not always after romantic relationships, but they're always looking for someone to exploit. If you're over 50, if you've lost a spouse, if you've suddenly come into money, please listen to me. Protect yourself. Get that prenup. Run that background check. Keep your finances private until you're absolutely certain. Don't let anyone rush you into financial decisions. And if someone makes you feel guilty for protecting yourself, if they call you paranoid or untrusting, if they pressure you to prove your love with access to your money, then that's your answer right there. That's the red flag waving right in your face. Tom wanted to protect me. That insurance policy, that careful planning, it was his final act of love. And by keeping it secret, by trusting my instincts even when they made me uncomfortable, I honored that love. I protected what he worked so hard to provide. I'm 62 years old. I'm financially secure. I'm safe, and I sleep soundly at night in the house I shared with Tom, the house I raised my children in, the house that's still mine. That one decision, keeping the insurance money secret, it saved everything. And I'd make the same choice again, every single time.